Hey guys, welcome to another episode of my YouTube channel where today we're going to be diving deep into what is spiritual bypass, how to avoid it, and what it looks like in your life. So this spiritual bypass was a term that I heard early on in my own spiritual journey, in my own awakening, but I didn't quite understand what it meant. And a lot of people ask me, what is this spiritual bypass thing? Basically, I'm going to give you my definition. I'm sure you can go online and Google search spiritual bypass and everybody's going to have their own definition. But in my own journey, I have come face to face with what it looks like to spiritually bypass and how that looks like in my very own life. So anything I share with you is from personal experience. So it may not be what you find out on the internet, but it is going to come from a very personal space because I don't tell anyone to do anything that I haven't done in my own life. So for me, like I said, when I first heard this term spiritual bypass and I was wondering what the hell it meant, basically it can mean that when you have an awakening and when you start down a spiritual journey, then the tendency is to want to experience the mystical, want to experience what there is beyond this physical 3D realm. That's basically what a big portion of spirituality is connecting with your soul, connecting with your inner self, connecting with things that we can't see or experience with our eyes or with our senses. It's the world beyond the senses. And when you first start to dive down the rabbit hole of spirituality, as I did, it is amazing. It's as if you are coming home. That's what it felt like to me. I was never a religious person. Religion never quite seemed to resonate with me or fit with me, but I still knew there was always something more. I knew that. I knew I had a connection deep within me, but I didn't have a framework for that connection. And so when I started diving down the rabbit hole of spirituality and spiritual awakening, it felt like coming home. It felt like, oh my gosh, this resonates. This is what I felt my whole life. And I now have a framework to put that in, to put what I had been experiencing and known deep down inside. Now I actually had a framework for that. And my journey started with meditation, as do many spiritual journeys and spiritual awakenings start with. It started with meditation, which meant I was learning how to overcome my mind and overcome my body. I was learning how to get really, really quiet and calm the monkey mind and the monkey brain down so that I could experience what was beyond the known, so that I could experience the mystical, so that I could experience what may be beyond what we can see and hear and taste and touch with our senses. And it was amazing, and it completely shifted and changed my life once I actually experienced what that felt like. But here is where spiritual bypass can come into play, and here's where spiritual bypass can be the problem. So what I use in all my courses is a map that we already have actually within us. It's a roadmap, it's a blueprint, and we all own it individually. And that is the chakra system, or as some people know them as energy centers. And we all have chakras. We all have these energy centers, and they're like our thumbprint. They're our energetic selves, as I explain them. So we have our human self, our 3D human self, and our 3D human body. And then we have our energetic self, or our spiritual self, as I call it within my Authentic Life Blueprint program. And this spiritual self contains these 7 chakras, these 7 energy centers. When we get into spiritual work, the tendency, as you can see from my beautiful stick figure drawing here, the tendency is to want to stay up in these upper chakras, where you have the crown up here, the third eye. Some even count the pineal gland as a chakra, and the throat, and even the heart. I would consider these your upper chakras, these kind of your mid chakras. So the tendency when we first start to awaken and we first start to go down a spiritual path is to stay up in these chakras, where you get to experience the mystical, where you get to experience realms beyond anything you can ever imagine. It's like being able to do drugs without taking the drugs. It's amazing. And as I said, it completely changed my life. And in my journey, the particular teacher that I followed the emphasis was up here, and there was no emphasis down here in these lower 3 chakras or lower 3 energy centers. In fact, they were almost kind of avoided. And this isn't just the case with my spiritual teacher that I was following. This is the case with a lot of spiritual teachings, that the focus is ascending out of the body, paying attention up here only to the spiritual realm, and no attention down here to what I call the human realm, your human 3D self, which is what these 3 energy centers are about. You have your root down here, you have your sacral right here, and you have your solar plexus right here, and then of course the heart. And within these are the chakras that make up the human self. So they deal with trust and security and creativity and your inner child. They have to do with your personal power, with your willpower, with your confidence. So everything pretty much that makes you up as a human. And so a lot of spiritual teachings, what spiritual bypass means is you are bypassing all of these energy centers down here, and you're going straight for these ones up here. And that is where your focus lies, is how you can astral travel out of your body, how you can experience different beings that aren't in this human 3D realm, how you can experience all sorts of amazing, amazing, amazing things outside of your body, moving outside of your body, ascending out of your body. But here is the problem, and this is why spiritual bypass can be dangerous. I saw this over and over and over again in other people that were attending all these amazing retreats and following all this spiritual work. I saw how they could have these amazing experiences, and then they would go home to their everyday lives and struggle, and they would get frustrated, and they would get angry, and they would get, how do I do this? How do I apply this to my everyday life? I'm having all these amazing things happen, and yet my relationships suck, or I am in a state of lack all of the time. I'm always struggling with money, or I'm yelling at my kids all the time and I don't want to, or my job sucks, or I'm stuck in this life that I don't want to be in. This is where they use spiritual bypass as a way to escape. And for me, I had been an addict pretty much most of my life. So I was always trying to find ways to escape my body because it felt really uncomfortable in my body. It felt painful in my body. So when I had a spiritual awakening and I found this amazing, amazing work, it rang so true to me and it resonated so deeply within me. And I was also using it in the beginning as another way to escape my body. I would have these amazing spiritual experiences, out of this world, things that I couldn't even begin to explain to you unless you actually experienced them. And it fundamentally shifted my life, and it gave me a connection that has grown deeper and deeper and deeper. But the reason that connection has grown deeper is because phase 2 of my journey was integration, was application, was embodiment. And that is where these 3 centers come into play. This is where you do the application and the integration. Because what I thought was, I will just stay out of my body and not pay attention to all of those things down there, which meant I was avoiding everything in my life that caused me to be an addict, that caused me to be in a life that I didn't want to live in anymore. And so here is where my work comes into play. The problem is, you don't want to stay stuck up here, and you don't want to stay stuck down here. It's about bringing all of these into harmony and into balance. And so that really starts with the root work. And this is exactly what we do and where we start in my online program for women that are frustrated and stuck, that have been on this spiritual journey for a while, and they just can't understand why when they get home, they can't apply it. They're frustrated. They feel like, what's wrong with me? I know all of this stuff, and yet I can't apply it. And it's because they have not gotten to the roots. They aren't going to the roots, which is where we start. It's the first place we start in my online program. Getting to the roots and getting to the default self. The part of you that was created the first 7 years of your life, your identity, the person that you think you are, which you are not, by the way, but that is where that's formed. That's where that default self is formed, is in those first 7 years. And if you don't get to the roots and you don't get to the default self and you don't work with your inner child, which is what I tried to avoid desperately. I thought I would breathe her out. I thought I would meditate her out. And the more that I did that, the more she roared, and the more she screamed, and the more she said, "You will listen to me," because I tried to avoid her. I tried to suppress her. I tried to say she is not there anymore, and she is. And when I went through the process in my own life of a full integration of all of these and a full application of all of these, that is where my journey significantly shifted. When I wasn't avoiding the parts of me that made me human, I was embracing them. I was bringing them up so that I could integrate them into my everyday life, so that I could grow and expand a business, working with women, doing what I love to do, teaching them how to do the very same things that I had done to get me into my life. So I could have a relationship that I create consciously every single day, a relationship that builds me up, and not that I'm leaning on or that I need, but one that is standing side by side with me. That is the love that I get to experience. And more deeper than all of that, having a sense of self-love for myself first and foremost, doing the work down here so then I could experience even more of a connection with these centers up here. Because if these are blocked and avoided, guess what? They're gonna pull you down to the center of the earth, keeping you from truly being able to access the full potential of these upper chakras. And so this is why we start at the roots, and then from the roots, go to the sacral, which is where your inner child lives. And only then, when we have worked on these two things, only then do we come up here and really learn how to connect with our spiritual self. And then once we learn how to truly connect with our spiritual self, we come right back down here. One of the most important chakras. I know this is a mess in here, and if any of you can see what's actually happening, you get an A+ for this video, because this is quite the artistry right here. But then we come into the solar plexus, which is one of the most important energy centers in your journey, because this is about your personal power, your will as a human being. Because guess what, people? While none of this is actually who we are, it's part of the experience. It's what we are experiencing right now, this human 3D amazing existence, where we get to eat amazing things, where we get to smell amazing things, where we get to touch amazing things and hear beautiful sounds and experience touch and experience pleasure in our bodies. Because you can go to all the spiritual retreats in the world, you can go and do all the ayahuasca in the world, you can go have all the out-of-body experiences in the world, but if your life is shit, none of it will matter. And if you are not stepping into your power as the human being self that you also are, as the sovereign human being self that you actually are right now in this moment, none of that stuff will matter. If you're struggling in your life, if you're struggling in your business, if you're struggling in your relationships, if you're struggling in your relationship with yourself, if you're feeling unsafe in your body, if you're feeling not confident and low self-esteem in your body, if you're feeling like you're people-pleasing all day long, never being able to actually put yourself first, or feeling guilty if you put yourself first, then it's time to get to work and get to the roots of actually what is causing all those things, so that you can embody the spiritual self and the human self, so that you can bring these all into balance. And this is, like I said, exactly what we do in the first phase of my online program, where I work with women who are stuck, who are frustrated, who have done all the spiritual work and their lives aren't changing. They're lacking a map, a roadmap. They know they have blocks. The women that come to me know they have blocks. They understand, they have subconscious beliefs, they understand that. And that yet they keep finding themselves repeating the same patterns of behavior, repeating the same patterns of their mom and their dad and their mom and their dad, and just repeating these generational patterns. And they want to stop them. They want to take everything they've learned and actually put it in a step-by-step, day-to-day practical process so that they actually can experience true freedom, not just out of their body, but into their body. My mission and my passion is to help people fully integrate into their body, to not ascend out of it, but to actually descend into it and take all this magic that we get to experience when we're not in the body and fully bring it down into our body. And if you're finding that you're spiritually bypassing, if you're finding that you're using spirituality or meditation or all these amazing modalities and tools as a way to get out of your body, but you're struggling to get back in it, then reach out, schedule a call, let's talk, and I can tell you and I can explain to you this step-by-step process that I have created so that you aren't spiritual bypassing, so that you aren't avoiding anymore, so that you can experience full integration in your everyday life, where the rubber meets the road, and all of those things that you experience, that's when it really matters. When you're having a confrontation with your boss, when you're having a confrontation with your husband, when you're having a confrontation with your kids, that is where the spiritual work matters. And that's exactly what I help the women in my program do. So hopefully this video helped you understand what spiritual bypass is, how it can be avoided, working within these lower chakras, working within and clearing out these lower energy centers so that you can actually make a difference in your life, so that you can actually make a change in your life, and you aren't just trying to escape it by practicing over spiritualization, by trying to just escape the body. Because guess what? You're in a body right now, and that is the only thing that we know with 100% certainty, is that we are in a body right now. And my belief is that we're here to experience the bliss and joy and freedom of being in our bodies. Hopefully this helped you. If this resonates with you, schedule a call. We can go over all the details, exactly how this blueprint can help you in your everyday life so that you can experience more joy, more freedom, and more clarity in your everyday life. Hopefully this helped, guys. I love you. I'll see you next time.